Welcome to See You on the Other Side, where the world of the mysterious collides with the world of entertainment. A discussion of art, music, movies, spirituality, the weird, and self-discovery. And now, your hosts, musicians and entertainers who have their own weakness for the weird, Mike and Wendy from the band Sunspot.
I can't tell you how I'm excited about this episode, Wendy.
Oh, please tell me. I want to know.
Well, what's really getting me going right now in our episode about ghost lovers is what I think is the greatest aphrodisiac of all, and that is 5-star reviews on iTunes.
Wow. I wonder how many people would actually agree with you on that.
I think every podcaster in the world would agree with me on that.
That's fair. But it's definitely an interesting choice for an aphrodisiac.
Yes, 5-star reviews on iTunes. So let's start out.
Okay, I like starting out with this kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely.
So we've got a review from Recipes for Protein Shakes. Quite a username there.
Yeah.
And they say, an energetic and refreshing podcast that is must listen for anyone interested in the paranormal.
Thank you very much, Recipes for Protein Shakes.
And I hope your protein shakes are energetic and refreshing as well.
That's right. Our podcast is just like their protein shakes. Okay. And then we got one from a Paul Lev that says, superb! Exclamation mark. A savvy, funny, altogether enjoyable podcast on topics that will reach out and grab you. But hey, I'm a little biased. As a lifetime reader, viewer, and writer of science fiction, usually about things in the everyday world around us that just go beyond the pale.
Ooh.
So 5 stars from Paul. Thank you, Paul.
Nice. And finally, General Hannibal of Robots.
All right.
Says, great. Learn something about the world and other worlds.
All right, folks. So
thank you.
3 new 5-star reviews this week.
Nice.
Thank you guys for putting reviews on there. If you'd like to do that, you can do that right in iTunes. You can do that on your podcast app, also on your iPhone and your mobile.
On Stitcher Radio or any of those.
So we always like to read them on the air, and so you can get a little shout out like General Hannibal Robots, Paul Lev, and Recipes for Protein Shakes did today.
Yes, and thank you for listening, and thank you for the feedback. We appreciate it.
We certainly do. And anyway, I knew this was going to be a fun episode when I was listening to the music of Martin and Natasha Blasick.
Oh, yes.
And so the fun kind of pop rock music, and knew it'd be fun. And when I saw that there was just a million different stories from Natasha's original story that she's going to tell us in a little bit.
Okay.
And before I did research on this, I got to be honest, I didn't know too much about ghost loving.
Yeah, I can't say I really did either.
When you're talking about things in the paranormal world, like I've seen the movie The Entity, and The Entity is actually a very negative sexual experience with a spirit. Like that's the Entity is it's one of those late 70s like parapsychology ghost movies, and great movie. But then a woman is sexually assaulted by a spirit. That's part of it. So it was interesting to see when you were doing research on it, all of these positive experiences. In fact, the people talking about it are absolutely glowing when they refer to this ghost love. Anna Nicole Smith talked about how much she had an experience that she thought was her boyfriend. Was a ghost. Bobby Brown got it on in Atlanta with a spirit in the middle of the night. We've talked about Dan Aykroyd before having somebody having a spirit of a farmer sneak into bed with him for some cuddling. So Dan Aykroyd has some supernatural spooning. Kesha, the singer, talked about it. Kesha with the $sign. She said that inspired her song Supernatural.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I guess I just haven't been paying enough attention, and I don't know. I try to pay attention to all these things, but now I'm like, hey, this is a thing. In fact, it has a name. Spectrophilia.
Okay. So it happens frequently enough that it has its own label.
Yeah.
So we can refer to it as spectrophilia.
Spectrophilia.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I guess I do remember hearing these stories and reading about them online, but we've never sort of compiled them all together and realized just how many of them there are. So,
right.
I mean, I guess if you're going to have an encounter with a ghost, better to have it something hopefully positive than the ones we're used to hearing where people are
scared.
terrorized by ghosts, right?
Or you think about the incubus or the succubus experience. So an incubus and a succubus, incubus is male, succubus is female. And that's where people wake up and they have this like demonic entity that's sexually assaulting them. And so
horrible.
Yeah, right. That always sounds horrible. And to me, that always sounds like sleep paralysis. Like I've talked about my sleep paralysis incident on the show before. We've talked to the Gray brothers who did an entire movie on the old hag syndrome. And anyway,
cool.
and a real interesting thing. And I was reading this in the Now, didn't you just read an issue of the Skeptical Inquirer for the first time, Wendy?
Yeah, I did. A friend gave me the 40th anniversary edition. And so I read it. I was on a road trip and I had plenty of time to read.
They had this whole article about paranormal paramours.
Okay.
And this is from about 2011. And it's about these ghost hunters that do have these strange experiences. And it even talks about like male ghost hunters having the experience of being violated from the back end. Like intrusions, right, by a ghost. And I'd never, ever heard of that before. And so I'm going to link to that in the show. I'm going to link to that in the show notes and you guys can check it out. But there's a lot more to this. And I've never experienced anything like this. And in our interview, we talked with Natasha and Martin about their career in music, about how paranormal experiences have influenced that music, and also Natasha's UFO and ghost stories. So maybe we should talk to them about it. I'm here with Martin and Natasha Blasick from the band The Snowflakes, and they are entertainers, songwriters, and performers, just like us here on the See You on the Other Side podcast, and they're joining us today from California. How are you guys doing?
Yay!
Hey, hi, Mike. We're doing great. Thank you for having us.
Very good, thank you.
Absolutely. And I think what interested us originally when we were looking around for people to interview and talk to was that we saw that you guys in your band, The Snowflakes, also write about some interesting kind of paranormal experiences. And your songs aren't just, I love you, baby. They're a little weirder than that.
We just like, I love you, baby, but the baby is an alien.
Yeah, we love you, baby, no matter what planet you're from.
Right, good. And so I thought that was great. And it was interesting that Martin, I also knew you through a different place where I do business called Broad Jam, and we do music licensing, and you do pro reviews and song reviews. And if you want to introduce yourself a little bit to our audience, you guys, give us a little history behind yourself, maybe how you met and how you started the band.
Well, I'm Martin Blasick, and I'm a songwriter, composer, music producer, and I've been fortunate enough to have had a lot of songs and movies over the years. A couple of highlights are writing a song with Matthew McConaughey and him performing it on camera in Magic Mike. And
yeah, my wife loves that. So that's a particular favorite of hers.
Hey, my advice to every fella: watch that movie. Do yourself a favor. Watch what works. Take lessons from a master. Watch it. And Lindsay Lohan did a song of mine on camera in Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen. That was very nice. The action stops as a Disney movie. My song comes on. The star sings it. It's very nice. And I got a gold record for producing Miracles Happen on Princess Diaries 2. And also many, many more places, which are of various sorts, things that people might not even think of, all the source cues and montages and scoring things that a lot of people may not be familiar with. So tons of work, lots of time spent in a room with no windows and figuring out why isn't my interfacing, or where's that crackle coming from? All the usual things, but it's a passion. I love it.
It's awesome, and it's the way you say it when you're like, well, a lot of time spent inside of a room with no windows, trying to figure out what's wrong with my computer. Like that's people. Hey guys, it's not the 1970s and the Rolling Stones anymore. Like a lot of what we do is just in that time spent writing and that time spent working, and I think that's a good point. So, Natasha, introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Natasha Blasick, and I'm originally from Odessa, Ukraine. And now I live and work in Los Angeles. I'm an actress mostly. I've done lots of movies, including 5 starring roles. So from comedy to horror to drama, so all kinds of genres. Actually, I just had a really cool audition today for Jimmy Fox movie. It's a comedy, so I really enjoy acting. And how we started music is I actually was taking the piano classes, and I was like little, but it did not go so well actually.
Okay.
I thought my teacher was super mean and then not just specifically to me, but I guess my sister was taking the same classes, and to her she would like interrupt the class and be like, "Who makes this horrible noise?" And then she'd come and she was like, "You stay after class. This is to me." And she did the same to my sister. And actually, my sister has natural voice. I don't have natural as beautiful voice as my sister, but so.
But your talking voice is really good.
Yes, it's my talking voice is all right. But the way we started Snowflakes, actually, Martin got me a present. He got me a Daisy Rock guitar and just a bass for Christmas, and he just
see how knowledgeable she is.
Yes,
Right. Well, a bass is kind of. I mean, there's the bottom 4 strings. We got you.
I don't really remember what is bass.
She's more pizzazz than like little tiny details.
Oh, whatever. So, but he got me a bass, and he's just like, "Oh, you should play." I was like, "Oh, no way." And then it's like, I think a couple of years later, he was not playing so much live because he was doing a lot of production, like he said, in the studio, and we do everything together. It's just so bizarre. I mean, some people might find it very strange, but we are kind of like attached. We're like one.
She told me once, "Aren't we supposed to be codependent?"
Well,
I don't know. I mean, I think it's good to do both, but I think in our case it's a little bit too much. So we do everything together, and we do a lot of my acting stuff together. Like if I go on location, Martin will go on location, and so he was telling me like he really misses playing live, and I wouldn't
and not just like playing a cover gig and for doing the original music from your heart kind of thing.
sure.
And and then one day he showed up home and he said, "I just booked the gig a week from now." I was like, "What?" He's like, "And if you know how to learn the lines, you will learn how to play bass." So basically, in a week, I mean, he wrote the songs like with a like easy bass line for me, kind of repeaters.
Mm-hmm. I call them repeaters because there's a certain kind of song that the chord progression, once it starts, it repeats and repeats. So when the chorus comes in, the harmony doesn't go to a new place. If it's just E to A, it just stays E to A.
Sure.
For instance, like Knocking on Heaven's Door is a good example of that. The chords just keep doing the same thing. It's just the melody that changes. So it makes it easier if someone's starting out on bass. They don't have to learn more progressions or anything.
So this is how I started. And in a week, I memorized all those, my bass notes. And I was like freaking out, and we played the show, and it was so much fun.
Although in front of one song on the stage, she goes, "We've never played this song before."
I had a brain freeze.
I've seen people say that plenty of times, like with established bands. They're like, "Hey, here's a song we never played before," and you're like, "Okay, everybody." So that's no shame in that game.
Okay, because I was pretty sure we never played that song. But we played somehow the songs, and it was a lot of fun. And actually, after first show, I got endorsed by this guitar company,
Daisy Rock.
Oh, absolutely. So, no, I know Daisy Rock very well.
Yeah, and I took it as it's a sign, it's like continue with music or something, because it's like in acting. I've done so many movies, but like people usually don't endorse me after my first movie. So here I was like, oh wow, maybe I should kind of like move in that direction.
Awesome. So the Snowflakes, and we'll have links to that in the show notes that people can find, othersidepodcast.com/110. You'll be able to find some links to some of the Snowflake songs and some of the stuff that Martin and Natasha have done. But, one of the things we like to talk about on this show is how you connect the pop culture, the songs and the art and the things that you guys work on with some weirder topics and everything. Right. And I think, and in funny, when we were looking for people to talk to and stuff like that, I found Natasha first, and only after I realized that I had spoken to and worked with Martin before. But also an interesting thing. So Natasha, you had a UFO experience?
Yes, yes.
And this was in the homeland, the mother country?
Yes, in Ukraine.
Okay. So
And
how old were you? Were you always someone who was interested in this kind of thing, or did this kind of happen?
I don't think I was always interested in this. But then you know what? As a child, I would draw a lot of UFOs, but I don't remember now, like saucers. But I don't remember now. Was it before I saw it or after? Because I think it would be naturally after. But actually, I was with my dad, so I know for sure I'm not completely insane.
Okay.
I'm maybe insane in other parts, but
Or at least there's another person
yes,
just as insane.
There's another.
All right. So a shared hallucination.
Yeah, so it's like it's totally together. So we were like walking from my grandmother's house. I was, I think I was like early teens, like I don't know, 12, 14.
Okay,
you know.
but this was early teen, so it wasn't like you were 5 years old where you could be
No.
just remembering something that, you thought of later or a dream.
No, I remember it very well. I don't like,
Well, set the situation up for a second. So you're coming home with your dad from your grandmother's house.
Yeah.
Now, is this a big city? Is this a small town?
It is a big city, but it's kind of suburbs of a big city, and we have farmers markets that actually it's big spaces, but they're empty usually at night. So to kind of cut, save the time, we would walk because I was with my dad, so I was brave. So we would walk through the farmers markets, basically like nothing but, big space of nothingness, like empty.
Were there empty booths and like that set up?
Empty counters, but even not so many counters because
take it away.
usually the cars come. So it's
So kind of like walking through a parking lot or something.
like park, but like no trees, like it's just asphalt and maybe some like kind of occasional tables like here and there. So it's like very open space. There is nothing to see in the sky. Like it's just open.
And what time of day is this? Were you guys at your grandma's late?
It was late. I'm not sure exactly what time was it, but it was late, and that's why we kind of like we're saving time, cutting from the space. So because it was already late, and it was like nobody out, and we just like walked, and then we kind of both noticed something like shiny. I thought it was a star. I thought it was like a fallen star or something. And we both started looking at it, and then I saw that star was coming like from right, like towards us, and we both like stared at it, and it looked like it was like and it was coming pretty fast, and it was pretty bright.
So was it getting bigger? Did you have so you see a star in the sky that's shining maybe a little brighter than the other ones, and it looks like it's coming towards you, or is it just moving through the sky or getting bigger? What's it doing?
Towards us in but it was not getting bigger or anything. It was just like bright, and it was like moving so fast, and then it just stopped in front of us. And it stopped maybe like what is this, like how far is this?
That's like 2 yards.
Like 2 yards, like away. It was like really close, and it was not.
Actually, you're leaving out a bunch.
Yeah, but then it was start coming closer. I noticed what it was. It was not a star.
Okay.
It was a.
She just skipped right from a star to like you can practically touch it. There's something in the middle.
But no, the thing is, it was coming. It was just like it was shiny, and there was like something coming fast. It was like it was something spinning, but it was not like
spinning.
Yeah, but it was not like I didn't know what it was at that moment. It was like spinning pretty fast, but then it's like spinning, and then it stopped, and then it looked like a dumbbell. And it was not big. It was not big at all.
So would you say like maybe like 10 feet across, 20 feet across?
You're talking about 6 feet.
Like meter and a half in my max.
Like a cigar-shaped thing with the dumbbell kind of things on the end.
It was like silver, like if you have a pencil with 2 balls on the top of the pencil.
Sure. No. I'm with you on the dumbbell, and I just think it's interesting if it's that almost today, if you would have saw one of those things, you'd be like, oh, that might be some kind of drone.
But that's what I actually thought, because it stopped there, and
as I understand, it was like spinning like.
No.
Like the long way or the skinny way?
No, it was like in the middle, like it was like this center of gravity was in the middle. It would be like rotating, like.
So this whole thing is like spinning around, like a pencil
like
was.
a circle, yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty dramatic.
Yeah.
Like spinning like this.
Like this. But then it stopped. And when it stopped, it was not shiny because then I saw it coming. It was like shiny like a star. But then it stopped. It was just like a silver, like, kind of, matte kind of thing. But then I don't remember how long we were looking at it because it was not moving. We were not moving.
Did you have any sense of, was it a sense of fear? Was it a sense of excitement? Was it a sense of curiosity? Did you have any innate feeling?
I don't know. I remember like it was like very calm in a way. So I don't remember any excitement one way or another. And I was not scared or.
Okay, so there wasn't that sheer terror. Like, to me, I always think that I see something, that sheer terror is I'm like, hey, look, a cigar shape, bye.
But I was not even in the terror because I think it was just so bizarre that you don't even know, like, what is this in front of you? It's just like.
So on some other planet, they have a picture of Natasha, like, with her mouth open.
But that's what I think. But then I don't remember how. I think it's like you almost like a hypnotized in a way. It's just like you stare at it, like you can't believe your eyes. And then I don't know how long did we stare at it. It started rotating again, like first slow and then faster, 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 and then it just like went different directions. So it kind of made like a triangle almost. Came this way, went another way, and then it was going far. I saw it looks like a star again. It just shoot out. And then I looked at my dad and I was like, what was that? And he said, look at all these stars. Do you think that we are alone in this place? And I was like, I don't think so. And he's like, it's neighbors. So I think because the way he replied to me, I was like, oh.
Yeah, he's pretty mellow about the whole thing. Hey, you think we're alone here? It's the neighbors. Forget about it.
But then, when he said that he was a little boy, he was followed by a triangle shape of some kind of vehicle. And he was in a forest, and that was scary because they would like follow him between trees and like really fast kind of maneuver. And he was a little boy, and he was running, and it was like this thing would follow. And he said that was scary because he was kind of trying to hide and jump, and this thing would just follow. But he was very calm, and he worked at the airport. So I kind of trusted him with, everything that moves and has wings. And I was like, hey, UFO, cool.
And you would think if he's at an airport, he would know most standard flying objects.
That's why I felt like he would know what is this, because he knows. In my mind, I kind of I was like, okay, it's UFO. So I kind of expected almost it's normal.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know it's probably not normal because I wouldn't talk about it because I don't want people to think I'm completely nuts.
Right.
But I think that's why I started drawing lots of saucers at school. And, while other kids will draw, I don't know what they drew, Mickey Mouses, I will draw, saucers and palm trees.
Okay, so that's a cool story. And that's fun, too, because it's an age that you can remember. You shared it with your father, like a shared experience. Your dad was totally chill about the whole thing. Don't sweat, it's just aliens.
I know. I wasn't, maybe he was horrified and he was trying just to be brave for me. I don't know what happened. Sometimes I would call him and say, did we see that? He's like, yeah. So, sometimes I do need confirmation because it sounds so unbelievable. And I was expecting that I would see those kind of things every week since then. And then nothing came over. And then this is when I became But then, you're a kid, so you kind of I have boys in my mind, so saucers were not as important as anything else.
As soon as you hit 15 years old, aliens are the last thing on a boy and a girl's mind. Yeah, of course.
Unless they're really cute, though.
Right. So no, that's great. And have you guys written any songs or anything like that about that kind of experience, or has that entered into the art?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of songs about aliens and not being alone. Actually, we don't have one that's about detailing your exact experience or celebrating your exact experience. That's a good idea, Mike.
That's a very good idea.
I do what I can.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
But no, we have and it's sometimes, more on the nose, sometimes trying to make it so it's you can go both ways. One of the songs is called Alien Girl. And it's where are you coming from? You seem like you're from outer space. So, there's a metaphor there. It's maybe a Earth person is just so, the emotional distance is so much that the person can seem like an alien, but it's used as all like, well, show me the lab where they do the swapping of the embryos.
That's a tough one to rhyme.
Yeah, I know. I rhymed with embryo.
I don't know. Like, I just come home and Martin writes another song about aliens. I think, like, after that experience, I think that I was here. We used to live in Santa Monica. It was like a place called Flying Saucers Cafe. And I think this is where it kind of sparked out.
And the owner had a big, his whole thing was about the aliens and stuff like that. So there's a group of people that hang there. So it kind of really brought it all out, and the songs started happening. I haven't had a UFO encounter, but I'm just like a Star Trek rerun kid, and it's like so I'm right there with you. Live long and prosper.
But it's like
no, I feel you.
I would start researching, and it's actually I started like reading about this like cigar shape, like because I was thinking, how come I didn't see like a round thing like everybody else, like normal people see, Right. So and then I remember one article, they said like over that side they have like they seem more cigar shaped, but I remember I was reading this like, but there was a huge gigantic ship, so I said like, okay, that's probably some kind of prop that I saw. It's like a little camera they send and see like little earthlings. So in my mind, I made the whole story like what it's supposed to be.
But aren't they due to come back and check on your progress from the injection they gave you?
Oh, no.
Right. They haven't come back.
I hope I see progress.
Let's see, she was silly then, and she's silly now.
Sometimes when you talk to people about it, their experiences and stuff, and then they have something where you had something where you said like a couple yards away and it was 6 feet across and it was smaller and everything, like they tend to make up the entire story for you. So they'll be like, okay, you know what I totally think it was? I totally think it was the Martians coming because they really liked the kind of beer we had in Ukraine at the time, or something like that. And you're like, get out of here. And so I like it. So like, do you know what it was? Nope, but it was pretty cool. Okay, fair enough. Like that's something I can understand. Also with music and alienation and people using their art to connect with others and feeling that a lot of people feel disconnected, and that's why we all get involved in arts in the first place, to try to find other ways to connect with people.
Yeah.
And but you guys went to like an alien abduction like group?
It was actually totally by chance.
We thought we were there to perform.
Oh, okay.
We had no idea what it was. It was like one of those meet groups.
Meetup. It was a meetup. And my buddy, we also played some like higher consciousness music together.
Sure.
He's like, it's like, yeah, we're gonna play, and we went there, and there was no plan.
Like, they said, there's a food there, and we're gonna play. I was like, okay, so
there's like very little food, but we learned about where the portals are, like in New Mexico or someplace. And,
I know, and then I was so like just shocked by that because I just expected like people eating and listening to music, and then I was asking lots of questions, but I felt like there was nothing was directly answered to me. And then finally I was like, so do you like remember like, being swapped and like what's happening? Because they're building like a house somewhere in the middle of desert that they're going to move and, and they're going to make aliens or something.
So these people are very affected by their experiences.
Yeah.
Where your experience, you're like,
yeah.
I had this wonderful experience with my father that I could share with my father and I can talk about it, some years later without it scarring my soul, and to these people, it's like ripping off a scab.
That's like a really major event. And then I realized.
By the way, was that true about yourself, or was that just a story you were telling right there? Did you have an experience?
Me? No, I mean, I've seen a couple of weird things in my life, but otherwise, I like reading about haunted history and reading about experiences and talking about them. But I've never had anything that weird happen to me.
Because you sounded just like the kind of the stories you would hear them tell about, their abductions and.
Yeah, but then what happened with those stories? Like
they were very open about it. It was kind of eye-opening.
I mean, they were open, but I never felt like I got like the answer. It's like, so I met this alien and we just, hang out the, laboratory or whatever. It's like, just tell me what happened. So after all these freaking questions that they wouldn't like, not answer, finally it's like I figured out, they had it in their dreams. So everything that happens, it's kind of like a dream state. And then I told them my dreams, and it's like, oh yeah, you totally was swapped and you were totally like traveling to other planets. I was like, really? What? And then I was like thinking, well, I was really good in mathematics.
Sure.
maybe I was like traveling. So it kind of, this is how I was skeptical, but then I was like, okay, just don't judge. Be open. Be open.
Right, and the thing is, like, I think that's what a lot of people why they have those kind of things, so they can be open and talk to other people in a way that they don't. Because if you said it to somebody, let's say you have an office job or something, you come in and you're like, "Hey, did I tell you about the time that I was pregnant for like 6 months, had an alien baby, they took it from me, and then I wasn't anymore?"
It's like they go right to the HR department.
Right,
it's like
right. The next place they go is to get a pink slip. So that's the thing. But that's kind of funny though. That I can imagine that you get your guitars and stuff like that. You're like, okay, guys, we got a gig.
Yeah, we brought the guitars. We had them in there.
It's just exposure and free food today, but it's gonna be fun. We might get rid of some merch. It's gonna be cool. And then you're like, uh-oh.
And we walked in, I was like, where's the food?
Right.
And there's like a little cheese and crackers. I was like, what is that?
Right, well, that's always the joke where they say you can always find the musicians at the party because they're the ones who don't leave the table. Open bar, I'm not leaving. Like, I'm there till the end of the night.
This is why we were standing in the back of the room, like, listening to us. Like, it's like, okay, this is totally nuts. And where's the food?
Right.
When do we play? When do we go on?
Yeah, and that's
it's
the
like,
next thing.
I guess we're not going to.
That's a funny thing.
But it did open my mind and actually gave me some insight into some ideas about mysteries that I wasn't aware of, and also got some good songs came from it.
Yeah,
too.
and then we actually...
I'd never heard of the Anunnaki at the time and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. There's like people have, when they have the reptilians and everything, and, that mythology runs deep.
I have dreams about these reptilians. It's kind of crazy. They're all like really, really tall and looks like big lizards, but like smart ones. They look pretty dangerous.
Yeah, well, I always think it's from that show V that was on, like 30 years ago.
I saw the show, yeah.
When I was a kid, when I was like 5 years old, that blew my mind. I'm like, they take off their faces and they're snakes.
I hate snakes. I'm so scared of snakes.
Yeah.
Besides that, we met like people. We know Patty Negri, and she's like the #1 psychic in the world. And she introduced us to this community where apparently, like, talking about aliens is like talking about weather. It's like totally normal and totally like...
Yeah, all kinds of paranormal stuff.
And this is where...
They're all light workers.
Oh, yeah. I hear people talk about that on Coast to Coast, like light workers where they help people out and things.
And
by the way, I got a great song from them because we went to like a convention of light workers, and these are people who've all, like, they have like this kind of certification they do, and they kept hearing, some of them are witches and white witches, and they kept hearing this whole thing. They kept saying earth, air, fire, water, earth, air. I'm like, and they do these chants, and I'm like, earth, air, fire, water. Then all of a sudden, this environmental song, Mother Nature is heaven's daughter. So I took their earth, air, fire, water, witches chant and turned it into an environmental message. And but I tell you, those people were great.
That's a funny thing. Like, you just take like an elemental chant, and you're like, okay, that'd be good for a track. And it's funny how inspiration can hit you from something. You're like, oh, I didn't see that one coming, but let's go with it.
I know. No, it's like, it is fascinating. And
well, what's it like you said, having a psychic friend? I've got some friends that say like, oh, I had some dreams about something, but somebody that claims to have psychic powers, are they never late? Or they know when you're coming over? Or like...
Well, I'll tell you one thing for sure. They're no help with the lotto.
Okay, that's not fair, right? It's like, you have this power, you can...
I know.
6 little numbers, that's all we're asking, and no help at all. No psychic can give you any help with that. And it's what they all say is that they can't use their powers on themselves. That's why they don't know these things, like when you're coming over or their own stuff. And
I'm like, honestly, I don't want anybody to like practice their psychic abilities on me, because I know I'm like really...
susceptible to all kinds of
and if like if somebody will tell me like you're gonna have a great week, I will have a great week, because I was like, oh yeah, that's good. But if somebody tells you like, oh, your week is gonna be suck, I believe like you will psych yourself into this bad week. That's why I like really with all these friends, I mean they're actually very respectful. They would never like give you some information that you don't want to have, and maybe they sense this in me. I don't want to have any kind of like prediction or like...
But they're very nice people.
But they're very nice.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah,
and,
they're very lovely.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically all about like, positive and raise your vibration and be respectful to nature. So there's nothing new there. It's
Sure.
just, and Patty actually will teach you how to guide yourself through life, like
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
a white witch and
Yeah.
and a
She'll
medium.
say,
She's the most positive, encouraging person ever. She's just a
and
lovely,
like
lovely human.
very
Right, and we
lovely.
all need that. We all need more of that.
Yeah, and she'll give like very practical like things. Like for example, if you feel stressed, like go take a shower and like imagine the water like washes it off, or like you feel kind of like airy and spacey.
But then she'll give you like actual potions to make
Yeah.
and burn this and bury that and.
I'm not sure about potions. I think potions is kind of like it's like a meditation. It's like we're making like a physical activity around meditation. That's how I look at this. Maybe.
And man, it's like a physical manifestation
Yeah.
of the thought process.
It's like
Sure.
yeah, that's how I looked at it. But maybe it's working. I don't know. I mean,
I think I've invested $4 so far in a money earning like a money getting ritual, because every time we do it, you write down all the things that you want to achieve, and you write it on the dollar, and you have this special sauce, and you dip it in there, and then you burn the dollar. And so far, I've got $4 into this endeavor. Well, you know what? Maybe it's like maybe I've already like just had a huge windfall from it, and it's like things would be really different if I hadn't burned it
It's the royalty checks on the way, Martin. That's what's
Totally.
coming.
I think like maybe it's like like a vision board. You just need to like invest yourself in what do you want, like kind of put yourself on this plan or something.
Yeah, because where you put your focus is a lot of times where things will happen. So if you think about this and you put all your energy for it and you put your focus for it, a lot of times that's where things do happen.
I'll tell you another line that I kept hearing at this convention, and I use it in a song because this one's not about as much the paranormal; it's about positive. It's called "Be the Light," and this is directly from what I heard somebody say: "Where the mind goes, the energy flows." And I'm like, that's really cool.
Yeah, that really is a great line. Speaking of, songs you guys have been inspired about, and one thing when I was looking up and checking out, well, first of all, Snowflakes, where'd you guys get the name from?
Oh, it's funny.
It's from my bass.
On her bass, she thinks the fret markers look like snowflakes.
And that's why I asked him how to play. He said like second snowflake, third snowflake. And I said like, oh, let's name our band Snowflakes.
Okay, that's a fun
So she
name.
refused to learn the frets, but she's like, which snowflake?
All right, that's
So it's
fun.
like between the third and fourth snowflake.
I mean, I had a really bad experience in music school.
But she created her own notation system. We even created a diagrams and print them up and write down on it. She invented her own notation system based on snowflakes.
Hey, and if it works, that's all that counts. Paul McCartney can't even read music, and he does just fine.
I know. Actually, I talked to a guy who plays with Paul McCartney, Brian Ray, and I was kind of shy about my technique because we used to be neighbors. We'll see him in grocery store, and I'll tell him about my snowflake technique, and he was like, "Oh yeah, it's like I don't know music. I don't play. I play by ear." So I felt like, "Oh, hey, here we go."
Right, as long as the end result is all that counts.
Yeah, you just need snowflakes.
And so, but when I was looking up some of your music, I found was there a warlock and witch band or?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's our other secret band, Witch and Wizard.
Witch and Wizard. Okay, I found that.
The other side of Snowflake.
Because we're you putting together our own movie as a poltergeist movie based on using the premise based on one of Natasha's true experiences, which was gotten attention, and so we took that story of spectrophilia, which is sex with ghosts.
Yes.
And so I took that because I didn't have sex with a ghost, but I'm like, hey, we could turn that into make it into use that. Don't just tell that story because it's just one thing. But make a narrative about it in a poltergeist movie. So we've got this movie we're working on called Sex with Ghosts, and we're making the music together. And it's kind of hard if snowflakes with all our positive energy and Go Aliens is doing this. So the songs are rattling my chains
and Sex with Ghosts.
I want to hear about the story. And that, I did when I was doing research. The reason that I was like, okay, well, if we're talking to Martin and Natasha, we can talk about this story because they did write a song together called Sex with Ghosts. So they feel comfortable talking about the story.
She's already talked about her story. By the way, she says something tickles me. She goes, I can star in 5 movies, but you have sex with one ghost.
So what happened? Like, were you in a haunted house? Were you in a haunted hotel?
No, it was not a haunted, like nothing. It was like I was just Santa Monica place, like pretty, safe to me.
How long ago was this? Was this in the recent history?
Yeah, recently, like how many, like 5 years ago?
Somewhere in that region, I'm guessing.
Somewhere around. And just for a disclaimer, I actually don't do any drugs. Like I don't even smoke. Like I drink sometimes. So because I after I said, like people say, oh, she must be like high or whatever. Like I see this like little gigs or whatever, like Natasha is smoking or something. I actually
we always on this show, like we always kind of. If somebody looks like they're obviously having some kind of drug-induced hallucination, unless that's the topic of the episode, we usually keep that out.
But yeah, so I did not even. That's actually the upsetting part about it. But it's like it's more explainable or something.
Right.
And now
this is all her from here on because I wasn't even aware of all this.
I didn't
were you at home, Martin, or were you out for the week, or like on tour or something, or?
No, he was not at home. I mean, it was not like late, anything. He was just like doing errands. I don't remember what he was doing. Anyway, he's not at home.
He was shopping.
Yeah, I'm in bed doing my thing. No, I was like reclining. I know. And then I felt like something, entered the space. And before, I feel like I felt some ghost or whatever people call it. I could feel energies. I'm not like the best like in it, but I'm pretty sensitive to kind of stuff like that.
So strange energies. So you're at home.
Yes. Yeah.
Martin's out.
Yeah.
Lying in bed.
And then I feel like this strange energy, like I just could, like the energy just changed in the room. And I was like, could feel it's coming closer and closer and closer. And then I didn't see anything, but then I just feel like, you are like touched and with a pressure. Like,
so you like felt pressure on your arms or something like that?
Yes, like arms, like you kind of pinned. And it's like, I know, like some interviews have to say like, oh, she was raped. I mean, that sounds really bad. So no, because I was not scared or anything. It was like, I think it was like with UFO. It's like, it's something so unusual that like, at least it's my reaction, but I panic about like little things, like seriously, like dog barks and I'm like, oh, it's scary.
Sure, but it did not initiate any fight or flight response in you.
Yeah, I think that it's like I'm in this kind of like really weird situations. I just get like really kind of cautious, but I don't panic. So I think that was my kind of initial reaction, like what? But then I don't feel like I was freaking out or anything. It was just kind of just like, let's go with the flow. I don't know. It was not scary. It was not. So I could feel the pressure, all this. So it just was weird.
But there wasn't a visual, like you didn't see some man or woman like walk in like with a silk robe or something like that, or
I hope so, with a silk robe, yeah.
Right, wearing like somebody with gold chains on. Like some 70s swinger used to live in that house, and like the spirit returns.
You got a whole thing going on there with that.
I know.
I'm helping you with the narrative. I'm trying to.
But before this, I did the show for this British this morning. I talked to producers a lot, and they would like ask me, so you had this experience, like, did anybody die in your family? I was like, yeah, grandfather, but, I'm not going to put it in this. It's just completely separate. Please don't connect that.
Oh, God.
So it's like, that was like really weird. But, people just trying to figure out, like, because they were like asking me, have you ever had any kind of spiritually weird, like, experience? I was like, it's not like weird, but my grandfather died on my birthday then I was like 16 or something. So after that, I felt like it was it was like, for me, I was trying to, listen more to spiritual world or, kind of be open. Because I'm like, what a coincidence it is. And I remember also my reaction that it happened was like very, very strange to me. Because I remember that it happened, I just like was laughing and crying. I felt like release instead of like deep sadness. And it was just so strange to me, my reaction. So I kind of started like searching, like more kind of, not searching, but, pay attention to spiritual world. And then I moved to Santa Monica.
So you're somebody who's comfortable with that kind of energy. You feel that you're comfortable with the idea of spirits floating around or anything like that?
No, I'm not comfortable. No, but I think I would go through like, stages of life that I would be really curious about it. And I think at that point, I was in Santa Monica, and it's like everybody's doing yoga, and it's like Kundalini yoga. Everybody's talking about like spirits and energies.
Oh yeah, well it's California. That's the game.
Yeah. So it was like very kind of inviting, atmosphere to kind of to listen to that side of, the kind of to play with it. Like, for example, right now, I have so like many other, focuses in life, what I want to do. I'm not sitting around and meditating and, I'm kind of like, okay, I don't have time for this. I need to accomplish this, and like,
Sure.
Let's accomplish something in the material world. But at that point, I feel like I was really searching for something. Like, I didn't know what was it, but it was like, it was just so many questions, but nothing to answer them. People say like, Anunnaki, like spirits. I was like, how do they know? It's like, what, the spirits come to them and say like, hey, my name is Spirit. Is like,
right.
And so I had like a lot of questions. So then it happened. It was just so weird that.
So it was like a presence joining you.
Yes, it was totally, and it was like
in a sexual experience.
Yes, it was sexual experience, and it was like really kind of like I felt the presence, I felt the push, and I mean, I'm not like, I understand how strange it is, so I did not tell anybody because it's like okay, this is like another one of those.
Well, and Martin, when you heard about, like, when you see the it's on Yahoo News or whatever, are you like, oh God, like what's your reaction?
Natasha.
Oh my God,
you're breaking my heart.
No, I mean, I just say this is how, I didn't see no ghosts. It's like, I ain't afraid of no ghosts. That's what it was.
Right.
It's like, I don't know. It's like I have, let's say I'm ambivalent about this because I mean, when it comes to like the alien things, I just think like in that movie Contact when they had that line, had this, if there isn't anybody there, it sure seems like an awful waste of space because it's such a big universe and there's so many places and we know so little. And my favorite recent example is like until last summer, the closest picture we had of Pluto was about like 8 pixels or something like that. And now we get these like detailed images and there's this, just by chance, this giant heart on it. And it's like, that's how little we knew then. And we still know little, but we know a lot more. I just think there's so much more than we know in this world. But, but when it comes to aliens, I think there's actual physical people riding around in a ship going, okay, docking and hey, we're checking out Earth now, scanning. When it comes to this, I am like, whatever you say, dear.
So, but you weren't like, hey, I gotta find this ghost and kick his ass or anything like that.
Oh, I'm gonna make a movie about him and kill him mercilessly in this movie because he's a naughty ghost. See, I'm writing a very, very vile end for him. How do you get rid of a ghost forever? It's like,
hey, the best revenge is making money on the story.
the best revenge is success.
And so, Natasha, you're feeling something weird's happening, and then, okay, then the presence just leave? Did it just disappear? Did it
just disappeared? Yeah, it just disappeared. And
when did you share it with somebody?
Just recently when it happened, this interview, because I was actually, I was like just doing Facebook, and I saw Patty wrote something like people who had sex with ghosts. So like there's a potential show. I was like, oh, and I was like, oh, this thing happened to me. But then I thought, like, you know what? No, it's like if it comes around, if she will ask me directly, then I will tell her. But I'm not gonna write her and say like, oh yeah, this thing happened. And then we had an event, and she was like asking people because she had this interview coming, so she needed like some subjects who actually had this experience. Sure. And so at the event, she's like, so who had sex with ghosts? And everybody's laughing. And it was like hard not to laugh alone. I was like, hey, I had sex with ghosts. I'm not sure if it's a ghost, it's not like they come to you introduce you. I mean, I thought it's an alien. I mean, I think everything is an alien.
So does what's his name? What's his name on the hair?
Oh yeah,
Giorgio.
Yeah,
Giorgio.
Giorgio. It's an alien, no matter what.
Ancient alien.
I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens.
But this is me. I was like, and I told her, okay, this thing happened to me. I mean, she's like, it's a ghost. I was like, really? It's like, how are you so sure? She's like, oh, it's like I have so many experiences. And then she'll tell me like, there's people like they lost their loved ones, and this is how they connect. I was like, it doesn't actually apply to me. It's not like I lost anybody, and it's like I'm reconnecting with somebody. Then I just like went in my head with all these boyfriends, and I was like, maybe somebody died. I don't know.
So she was talking about it. You brought up your experience, and she's like, "No,
Yeah.
you totally did it with the ghost.
Yeah.
There you go."
Yeah.
And then it blew up when you were doing promo for a movie or something.
No. And she's like, would you like to do an interview about it? And I was like, I don't know about that. And
it's like an
Yeah.
English morning show. It's like
like-
they're a Good Morning America kind of thing.
Sure.
Go to the studios like at 3:00 in the
Yeah.
morning. Get done. Don't think another thing about it.
But you guys got to go to London for it, though.
No, we got to go to Culver City, which is an
Okay.
area in Los Angeles.
So
No,
And
so
do
for
a satellite
us,
hookup.
for us, it was
Okay.
like 3:00 in the morning. I
With
was
like one engineer in a lonely, quiet,
and
sleepy place.
I had like a couple of conversations with producers, and I was assuming it would be like 2-minute segment. They would just say like, "Hey, ha ha ha, you had sex with ghosts," and I was just like, "Yeah, hey, funny." And it was like an out. I was like, "Who cares about that?" So it was a longer interview, and actually, it's good that I talked to producers about it because I felt more comfortable talking.
sure.
Because before I was like questioning, it's like, do I really want to do this to myself? But then I thought like, hey, it happened. I mean, if this is the way I looked at it, it's like, if I'm not going to talk to it, obviously if it happened to me, it might happen to somebody else. So if I'm not talking, it means like I'm ashamed of what happened, but I'm not because
So many people have come up to her. We talk like make fun of us, say that the same thing happened to them. It's like kind of surprising.
it is surprising. So in a way, like I kind of like, it's like, this is what happened. I'm going to tell them. So I did. And then of course, even like on the show, they were laughing and, it's not like I didn't expect that. So then I went to bed. I was like, okay, this is the weirdest thing ever. Why did I do this? It's like, and then I wake up next morning and it's like, it's freaking everywhere.
Yeah, I said, it was the number 2 Twitter trending in the UK right after. It's like, so it was hot. It made worldwide news. Seth Meyers made a joke about her on his show that night.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's hilarious.
I mean, it was ridiculous. And I felt like, that's a sign that people are interested in.
Keep starting those movies, and Seth Meyers doesn't talk about it.
I know. It's like, seriously, it's like you make all these movies, movie after movie, and it's like nobody gives a shit. And you think I'm like one story on like
Right, and then there it is.
show, and it's just like weird. It just shows it's like you never know what you say can like affect somebody. And I was getting so many letters after, and some people were like, "This is what happened to me too," and then some people were saying like, "This is like a really bad spirit," and it's like this is really bad. And
But people write long letters
like very passionate
from both sides.
Yeah, and honestly, it scares me when people tell me like it's bad. It's like, who knows?
You were talking about the self-fulfilling prophecy before. If somebody says like, "Oh man, 2017 is going to be a crap year for you," then all of a sudden it is a crap year. You don't even have anything to do with it.
I know. After that, actually, it did affect me. Like I was, I think, more emotional about a lot of things because then I did kind of start thinking maybe it is bad. It's
Sure.
like, who knows? It's like, I don't know. And Patty, she's very positive. She's like, it's all love and light. But at the end of the night, I'm there by myself. It's like, what happened? So it's so that's why now, like, I finally kind of behind me, so to speak. I'm not like, I meditate, but I don't meditate regularly. Like, I feel like in my case, it's better. I think I was so fascinated with something supernatural, so to speak, that I believe like in a healthy balance.
Sure.
So now I think the other side for me, it's like I'm meditating sometimes, but I'm just keeping it very focused and spiritual, but not too much.
I think the important thing is that you said that other people have had these experiences, and maybe that they can feel less afraid to tell their story. Because if you're willing to tell your story on UK television, and you know how they love salacious gossip in the United Kingdom. They eat that stuff up. Like even compared to Americans, they love it.
I thought it's gonna be more like, like tell like about medical experience or something. No, they were like laughing and making jokes. And no, but what you said, because I did think about it a lot, and I was thinking, why did I say this? It's like, what's the reason? It's like I do want to share my experience, what I learned, and what I learned, like from Patty, because even after I was going on more through like questioning and re-examining myself even more. And she was telling me nothing bad can happen to you if you don't allow this.
That's a good message.
And I told you, like, I have some, very vivid dreams. And it's like once I had a dream, it almost was like it was floating in the sphere. And then I feel like protected and strong. I had this like white sphere of light around me. But as soon as I had a fear in me, it's like the fear would just like pop and disappear, and I would, like, instead of floating, I would just like pop on the ground. But the reason I needed this fear, I was running from somebody. I was very scared. So the only way for me was to escape is not to have this fear. And I think it's a big thing in my life, like not to have it. And I think that's why in this movie, we want to show that it's up to you at the end, like what happens to you, and you can protect yourself even from supernatural things by building the strength, and nothing can touch me if.
I like that. Fear pops the safety bubble.
But you know what is funny? Like on the Christian side, they have that "Get thee behind me, Satan."
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just about taking charge of your own
because no, it's like
psyche and all that.
It is. It's like, because then it's like God is with you. They say like, and so you do have the strength, and like in my dream is like you have this bubble, bubble of light, and as soon as you, don't do this, it's like you're on your own, and then anything can get you. And that's why we want to put it in the movie. It's kind of like to teach that it's all in your hands.
And that you have some control over your spiritual experience, particularly.
Yeah, in the movie, the person has a lot of fears, and to overcome vanquish this villain, they need to have their journey to overcome their fears, and this. I mean, it's works for a lot of people. Interestingly, though, this topic is like an evergreen. It keeps coming out. More and more people go public with their spectrophilia stories.
Kesha did. Bobby Brown.
Bobby Brown. That was the latest one I've heard. Just a couple of months ago.
Yeah. No, and Patty would tell me like, no, like this is our dimension and nobody can touch us.
Your domain.
Yeah.
This is my domain.
It's kind of it's and it goes with every, I think, spiritual teaching that it's out there.
Sure.
So I mean, I think at the end of that, I did kind of grow in my kind of, I can't say grow spiritually, but hopefully I learned something.
But did all the attention on that experience, I mean, it was good for a lot of people who may had a similar kind of experience, were afraid to talk about it. But did all the attention affect you guys in your career at all, or anything like that? Or were people like, oh, like that's the Sex with Ghost chick, or that's Martin. Martin writes these like supernatural songs now, so I don't know if we want him to write our pop song, or.
I don't know. I mean, probably they think about it behind our back, and then it's like, here comes Blasick. Hello.
Oh, but it hasn't. No one's been coming by lately.
Or they might see that's like, hey, look, they were the number 2 trending on Twitter. That means they're capturing attention.
I know. No, it's like I did like lots of interviews after, and
interestingly enough, she did the Playboy Morning Show where they have like a comedy team. There's a guy and a girl who are hosts, and they of course like have talk about sexy time and put that in there.
Sure.
So we're expecting for Natasha to be like
humiliated,
kind of poke a little fun at
run
her
through the ringer
experience. But as soon as they get going, the hostess, because the guy who's kind of going down like the path of unexpected, and she's like, well, this is really interesting because I've had the same thing happen to me. And then it turned into this really serious discussion.
I know.
Of course, with 4 nude bottles, they cut away to 4 nude bottles. What were they, like how to have a summer vacation or something like that? But anyways, and then back to Natasha, and then she was half the show. It was an hour show, and then they brought in their comedian. They kept Natasha along because they seemed fascinated with the topic. Comedian comes on, we're expecting him. Is that not material? But then he comes on and he goes, no, I think this was sleep paralysis. He got all serious on it. I'm like, dude, you're supposed to make fun of it. And he didn't. It's like, it's a very funny topic. People really react to it.
People do react to it. And I just think the only way we find out, what is this, is kind of talk about it, because that's the only way. But yeah.
But you guys are finding a way to express that and to use that experience in a positive way by working on a narrative.
Yeah, I think so. Let's just try to, at least, I was thinking, it must be this experience for something, so that's why we want to make this movie. And the songs, actually the song that Martin wrote, Sex with Ghosts, I really love that song.
All right, well, I heard it on Bandcamp, so we're going to embed it in the show notes.
Oh, thank you
very much. Yeah,
I like more moody kind of songs, and that's I like Snowflakes, but it's very poppy and happy. But I think deep inside I'm really moody, and that's kind of darker. I really, really love that song.
It's funny. There's another thing that I'm doing songs for right now, and it's an up-tempo rocker, and I'm like, well, she was disappointed when she heard it, because I wanted her to be in the video, and she was. It's called Bittersweet Baby. It's on my YouTube, and that's what we just won. We just won third prize and a nice bucket of money for it. Anyway,
fantastic.
She's playing me examples, and these are all because my song's about 150 beats a minute. It's an up-tempo, perky beat. She's playing me stuff that's around 88 beats a minute. It's all this really moody stuff that would sound okay in the Twilight series soundtrack. I'm
right, she's playing you some Bauhaus or something like that.
I know. And I was I didn't realize this when I listened. I was oh my gosh, because I jog a lot, and I just listen. And for me, it's really motivating, kind of Rocky Balboa kind of moment. So I didn't know that I'm listening to such a slow freaking music.
Well, you double time it in your head.
In my head, my head, it's really fast. Maybe I run so slow.
So I'd already recorded the whole freaking song. I was ready to shoot it, and there's no time. And now I'm doing these other, mock-ups and trying to sing it I'm a bittersweet. And it's bittersweet, baby. It's an up-tempo thing, so. The girl likes moody stuff.
I think that's the difference between us. I kind of slow and moody, and he's more happy and faster.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's kind of when you work together, then that's the way you find out a happy medium and to create something interesting.
Yeah, how come they don't call it a sad medium? They call it a happy medium.
And speaking of that interesting work, if people want to find your music, what's the website they can go where they can listen to your guys' songs, the Snowflakes Band, see your videos and things like that?
Well, our official website is snowflakesmusic.com. And on there's a link to our Bandcamp page where we have one album up. And actually have a lot of songs that we haven't recorded yet. We have at least another album's worth of songs.
And Witch and Wizard is that?
And Witch and Wizard is on my Bandcamp. That's martinblassick.bandcamp.com. And so that's Witch and Wizard is on there.
Okay. Great. And we're going to have links to that on the show notes at othersidepodcast.com/110. And Natasha, do you have anything coming up where people can see you in, or is there a place that you'd like to direct them?
Oh, actually, just 2 weeks ago, we had a premiere of a movie called Sex Trip. And
The
Sex Trip. Everything is with sex in my life. It's
there's worse things. And so the Sex Trip is the movie. And I looked on the IMDb. Martin, you do the songs for that too?
Yeah.
He wrote almost all music for that.
And it's just a coincidence. Natasha had shot her parts last summer, and then I got the gig doing the songs for it. And so it's because some of the things are actual songs, some of them are score. So I'm the music guy for it. There's a couple of cues which are somebody else. But basically, it's my score and songs. And so I said, when I got the gig, and I'm like, what's the name of this movie anyway? You go to the Sex Trip. I'm like, oh, my wife plays Alexa in that movie. So it's been a love fest ever since. It's a cute movie. It's a romantic comedy, kind of a rowdy one where this player magically becomes a woman, and he has to learn what it's like to be a woman, to live as a woman. And it's real cute.
The Sex Trip, and is that going to be people can rent it, or on Netflix, or on TV, or where?
We just got some distribution. We're not sure of the details.
Well, good luck, and I hope that happens for you guys. And thank you very much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you so much for having us. We had fun.
Well, there you have it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go play with their band next time we go to California.
Oh my gosh, that would be great. Yes,
that would be fun.
definitely.
We're
I'd
gonna
love to
have
see
to
them live.
open up for the Snowflakes, maybe a trip in Santa Monica.
Yeah, be fantastic.
But anyway, they were a lot of fun. You can check out all that stuff at othersidepodcast.com/110, episode 110.
That's right.
And the song this week is less about ghost lovers and getting it on with the Spectre. And it's more about, I think, that the waking up next to a ghost. So this song is more about the next morning.
Okay.
Really. But it's also about how if you don't go for what you want to, or if you live a life for someone else instead of yourself, you might wake up and look in the mirror and see a ghost with your face.
All right. And what's the song called this week, Mike?
Ghost with your face.
You walk through that door at 5 every single day. You done all the right things and you're doing what they say, but you're defeated, cheated, dragged behind and feeling like a slave. You might have a picket fence, but you got no time to play. I seen the end, my friend, I seen what you get. There's millions of us dead, they just don't know it yet. The best minds of my generation wasted on the race, going mighty fast, going to no place. We trade the best years of our lives for a never-ending chase. And one day you'll wake up to find all you are is a ghost with your face. Well, we all want to run away, we all want to break out. It's the quiet desperation Henry Thoreau talked about. We got to be real, we signed the deal. It's not easy as they say, it's gonna take a movement if we wanna bust these chains. Cause I seen the end, my friend, I seen what you get. There's millions of us dead, they just don't know it yet. The best minds of my generation wasted on the race, going mighty fast, going to no place. We trade the best years of our lives for a never-ending chase. And one day you'll wake up to find all you are is a ghost with your face. And one day you'll wake up to find all you are is a ghost with your face.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. You can find us online at othersidepodcast.com. Until next time, see you on the other side.
They take off their faces and they're snakes.
Hold on. We're not done yet.
What?
We haven't told everybody.
We're not?
We haven't told everybody about othersidepodcast.com/donate. That's the site where you can join in on the fun, join our Patreon community, help us with ideas on podcast episodes, talk about songs, give more feedback to us. othersidepodcast.com/donate is where you can join the Patreon community. And we have to do a special shout out to
Ned.
Ned's at the Patreon level where we give him a shout out in every single episode. So thank you very much, Ned. And thank you to our awesome patrons.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next week.